I'm a cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon, so I know quite a bit about health. And I recently reviewed the data from the American Lung Association that they put out about particulate matter and looked at the background on the funding for all the studies. And lo and behold, everything that they used was pretty much very far left-leaning global warming activists, foundations that privately funded these things. And in addition to that, the potential health benefits are based on computer modeling, not on actual data, but a computer model projecting their data results into the future, not based on actual factual data with human studies. And to make matters worse, the computer modeling was developed by an individual who had a financial stake in the success of the model going forward. In fact, I had the chief medical officer from the American Lung Association come down from New York and discuss this with him in my office, and voiced my disappointment that an organization that's so highly esteemed would be using data which, in my view, was biased. But my question goes in another direction. In September, your agency proposed a rule that represents perhaps the clearest, although not certainly the first, in the administration's war on coal, what I'll call war on coal. The 8th District of Indiana that I represent has 9 coal mines, every coal mine in the state. Our state, 88% or so of our power comes from coal. Coal supports the economy, jobs indirect and direct, helps families put food on the table. In fact, my dad, I grew up in Illinois, my dad was a coal miner, so I've known this industry forever. In fact, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But the new source performance standards for new power plants will essentially prevent construction of another coal-fired power plant in this country ever, essentially. In the first few pages of the EPA cost-benefit analysis, you admit that this policy will, and I quote, result in negligible CO2 emission changes or quantified benefits through 2022. In your view, should the Federal Government regulate coal-fired power plants in this manner if there are no clear benefits? That's up or down?
We should be regulating CO2 from carbon emissions, yes.
Then would you be, then your statement that you made in the, that was incorrect, that there is a benefit through 2022? Because the quote in the first few pages of the cost-benefit analysis says, and I quote again, result in negligible CO2 emission changes or quantified benefits through 2022.
Which is a reflection of the industry and the market as it sits today.
Okay, so what you're saying is they should regulate that, even in light of the fact the EPA admits there's no benefit to it.
The issue is that coal is not being invested in except in a few instances where carbon capture and sequestration is being invested in, when we want to make sure that we take advantage of those new technologies and make sure that we do what the Clean Air Act says, which is to underpin those reductions moving forward.
That's fair, and I think the industry would agree that constant innovation and technological advances is something that the industry also believes in and will invest in.
They do.
That said, is the technology currently commercially available on a large scale for Indiana and the Midwest to meet the proposed standards?
On a large scale?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, there was, you might quote that the technology is available in some academic setting or in an area of the country, say, where things are very close, but specifically, related to CO2 emission capture and all of, my understanding is currently there is not the commercially available on a large scale technology to comply in Indiana with the regulation. So the regulation is in place, but there's no commercially available technology to comply. Is that true or not true?
We believe that CCS is commercially available. Is it going to be broadly disseminated at this point? No, we don't believe so, because most of the facilities that are being constructed are actually natural gas facilities. They're the most competitive. But where coal is being invested in with CCS.